morning, it's Jen, the Liberty Lion, and today I want to real quickly just go over the importance of the word the. The is an article that limits, but it's not just a or any or all, it's specifically the one created by the federal government. So in here in the history of Congress, you can get this page from memory.loc.gov. And this is column 25 and 26, November 1791, Proceedings of the Senate. So we have here ordered a committee to report a bill for establishing offices for the purpose, so a single purpose, of granting lands within the territories of the United States. You'll see in here that it almost starts to get redundant because of the number of times they use the, but the indicates that it is the one created by the federal government. When they take out the, as we saw in the definition under state, it looks like it's something else. And today we see that they have taken the out of a lot of their titles. So it'll say something like United States Department of Treasury instead of the Department of the Treasury of the United States. So the founders used very proper grammar called close grammar, whereas most people or common people use something called loose grammar. So this is a very specific, very detailed grammar and grammar rules. So when they say the, it's not an arbitrary thing. It's intentional. It's very intentional. Within the United States and for appropriating the same. The Secretary of the Treasury to report thereon to the Senate. The sea service during the late war on the table. Here's the city of New York. So it's not talking about some corporation, where corporations don't usually have the word the. A corporation would be, Apple, not the Apple company. Thursday, November 3rd, 1791, a message from the House of Representatives informed the Senate that the House of Representatives have passed the bill entitled An Act Granting Time for Making Return of the Enumeration of the Inhabitants of the District of South Carolina, in which they desire the concurrence of the Senate. And their enacting clause in my, very soon in the near future, I'm going to have a video on the enacting clause, some history of it. I've done a quick one before. This one will be a little bit more detailed and updated. But the enacting clause is used to show the authority. So where does Congress get the authority? Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, because that's a phrase, the United States of America in Congress assembled. There's no apostrophes in between there. That's the authority. The United States of America in Congress assembled. Only when they're in Congress assembled. Only when they are the United States in Congress assembled, or the United States of America in Congress assembled. That it shall be lawful, not legal, lawful for the marshal of the District of South Carolina to complete and make return of the enumeration of the inhabitants of the said district of the President of the United States. You see how it sounds redundant? But this was intentional, very intentional. These are not just arbitrary words slapped down on a piece of paper that anyone could misunderstand. This was done so that there would not be a misunderstanding. Back in the Journals of the Continental Congress, they called it the Army of the United States, not United States Army. United States Army is something different. An act providing for the enumeration of the inhabitants of the United States. And be it further enacted that the marshal of the said district, meaning that these are named things specifically named by the government or by the United States of America, and are very specific people and things and places. Not some legal fiction, not some corporation. These said returns to the President within the time prescribed by the act aforesaid. And you notice in the Constitution it uses the Congress, we the people of the United States, for the United States of America. This bill passed on a second reading that the petition of John Mangnall be referred to the Secretary of State, not what would they say, the United States Secretary of State, where they take out they take all the these out. That's not government. That's not the government. And they might say in a bill passed that they removed the, but it still refers to the, but then you have to question, was the bill legal? Was the bill constitutional in the first place? Okay, so from the state of Vermont appeared and produced his credentials and took his seat belonging to him. The Senate proceeded to the second reading of the bill because there has to be a first reading, there has to be a second reading. There has to be a bill, one bill passed. And the bill has a name and the purpose, granting further time for making return of the enumeration of the inhabitants of the District of South Carolina. The bill was amended by striking out the word recited at the end of the first session and also the second session of the bill. Doesn't it seem almost redundant? Whereas nowadays you can read something where it doesn't have the, at least quite so often. And that's because it's something different. They have replaced what is constitutional or by law or lawful and replaced it with legal fictions that have no authority. They're not the things named. The things named in the Constitution or the process of doing constitutional things. So that's why they've taken the out and they've changed it into something that's not government. It doesn't have authority because the authority comes from the Constitution, not from some corporation. So then you have to ask, United States Army, what is United States Army when it's called the Army, the Navy of the United States in the Constitution, or the Land and Naval Forces? The rule is being dispensed with the bill the third time, okay, because it has to have so many readings. the first time, the second time, and the third time. The concurrence, okay, that the secretary desire the concurrence of the House of Representatives in the amendments to this bill, the petition of Charles, the city of Philadelphia. Okay, so just pointing out that the is very important because the is an article that refers back to the specific thing where the authority is given for that thing. So the Constitution gives authority to do the list of things that are in there, and each of those things is the thing that the federal government has a right to do. But when they change the names and they take out the, then it's any or some. Let's see, the Senate on the subject of the American prisoners at Algiers, the Secretary's office, okay, because they knew the difference between the government and some fiction. The Senate proceeded to class the senators from the state of Vermont in conformity to the resolution of the 14th of May, 1789, and as the Constitution requires. I could probably rewrite this in a way, it might take me a minute or two, write this in a way where there are no these in here. So if they wanted to take out the and save space and make it more condensed, they could, but then it wouldn't be what was created and given the authority by the people of the United States of America or of the states. It would be just any arbitrary thing. A constitution is not the same as the Constitution. Okay, so when it says this Constitution, that is the Constitution. Not any constitution or some other constitution. It's this Constitution. The Constitution then is this Constitution. But this Constitution would indicate that there was some other constitution and not calling it the Constitution. But there is the Constitution of the United States, and it appears as though the Articles of Confederation is the Constitution of the free, sovereign, and independent states called the United States of America. And then each state has their own constitution. So the Constitution of the United States is for the federal lands. The Constitution of the state is for the states. The Constitution of the Republic of Texas. The Constitution of Virginia. And then there's a Constitution for the state of Virginia. There's a lot more going on within this document. And let's see, I think I found this document under search word oath. And was one of the first ones that come up, but it had a lot of the word the in it. And so I thought it would be another good example to show you that even back in 1791, they knew the difference between any, a, this, that, the, those, some, or taking out all the articles altogether, such as what they do now. United States Army, United States Treasury, United States Internal Revenue Service. Those are different things. Those are creatures. Okay, they're creations. They're instrumentalities. They're quasi-public private corporations that you hear Ron Paul talk about all the time. Okay, so if you want to look at this document, again, memory.loc.gov, and search word, I believe it was oath, and you'll find this up at the top. It's Proceedings of the Senate, History of Congress, columns 25 and 26, 1791. And I'll be talking about a lot more stuff having to do with this document, the enacting clause, and what all that means, but I'm working on getting the information together, as well as a book that you can read over it. It's by, if you want to go ahead and look at it, it's by Charles Weisman. It's on a website called Republic Keepers, and it's called Authority of Law. Really interesting book. Short, very short, super, super informative. But I'll be doing a video on that. Hopefully it'll be in my next video. But we'll go over that and talk about where the government gets authority and how important V is within that authority. Okay, so with that, you guys have a great weekend and we'll be talking again soon.